It was intended that the cameras would cut, but they didn't. Jim Jones just sat there, motionless, while the audience gasped and social media went wild when Chrissy disclosed her secret wedding on live television. Nobody was aware of his thoughts. It was impossible to determine if he was hurt, confused, or on the verge of blowing up. But once the credits rolled, what took place backstage wasn't supposed to be seen, because Jim Jones headed straight to Chrissy's dressing area while producers frantically tried to calm things down. What transpired next was unvarnished and captured on camera by a hidden camera that was still rolling behind the curtain, shouting, charges, tears, and a truth that neither of them anticipated. This went beyond reality television. Friendship, which had developed over decades, was ending in real time. What about the internet? I was viewing everything live, unfiltered and untidy. A typical reunion special was planned, complete with some yelling, a few walk-offs, and a dash of social media animosity. However, real love, real lives, Harlem Edition's last 5 minutes became something nobody could have foreseen. Chrissy didn't simply arrive glammed up and cocky, she arrived bearing a mystery. You could feel the atmosphere in the studio evaporating when she revealed her marital status to the set. I took the necessary action, but I did it in private. I didn't wait for the first time in my life. I didn't inquire, or choose myself. I have a spouse. Shocks, not just from the audience, not from the host, not from the actors who spent the entire program recuperating from minor drama. The most significant gasp resulted from Jim Jones's quiet. He didn't recoil, didn't blink, remained motionless. Wearing sunglasses, the stage lights are still catching the diamond chains. However, that quiet spoke louder than any expletive he could have used in response. Jim remained still as the broadcast comes to an end. Producers issued the wrap-up cue as the reunion presenter frantically tried to regain control and roll the titles. The performers started to go toward the back corridor to get ready for their exit interviews as the audience cheered and the lights went down. However, Jim Jones, still inside that chair. Later on, one of the boom mic operators stated, "It seemed as though a bus composed of all the what-ifs he had ever avoided had struck him. He didn't even become angry in response, simply shock. That profound silence in which your heart is at, a loss for what to do. Like he was holding himself together, he sat there with both hands on the velvet reunion chair's armrests. All he said, barely audible over the crew talk, while his microphone was still hot, was, wow, ... Really? Then all of a sudden, he got up, slow, with a purpose, and did not go to the green room, not to the changing rooms, not even to get out. He went straight to Chrissy's personal trailer backstage. It's the one she had kept shut ever since they got there. What was not seen by the main cameras, things literally went off script at that point. A freelance backstage cameraman named Reggie, who had been engaged to record behind-the-scenes footage for social media, continued to record when the primary camera feed went blank. And he did. Thank God, for what did he catch? It was a complete firestorm. Reggie continued to film as Jim rushed past security and used one hand to force open Chrissy's dressing room door, unaware of what he was getting into. Don't knock. Not a warning. So you're going to simply throw that at me like that? On television in real time. With one heel still off and the makeup artist frozen in mid-touch, Chrissy whirled around. Her jaw tightened and she dropped her small mirror on the ground. Jim, you knew we were finished. You were aware of that? Yes. But are you married? You didn't even text me after being married to this guy? You didn't believe I was worthy of at least that? You want to communicate now? After 6 months of you ignoring me? Following your avoidance of couples therapy. When my mother passed away and you didn't even show up? Boom. It became real at that point. Every single person in that hallway stopped, breathing, and you could hear it. The clipboard in the hand of the production assistant. Frozen, Reggie backed up just enough to keep the audio clear, even while one of the background stylists attempted to shut the door. Covert camera. Completely. Rolling, no one was aware that Chrissy's dressing room microphone had been left running. It wasn't customary. The audio was extremely clear, but it was a complete accident. 2 hours later, when that video was leaked, was widely shared on Twitter. A video was shared by @TWithC with the following caption: "This man gave her silence after she gave him 20 years. He forced her to pick herself now." The video became viral. Supporters were split. Some were caught off guard, wounded, and betrayed. They were Team Jim, but most of them Chrissy's team. Because her voice cracked with agony beneath all that stress. "I wanted more, and you knew that. You were aware of my fatigue. For years, I waited on you. You assured me of a life, a wedding, and a family, and I just had potential. You have my loyalty," Jim retorted. "No, you placed me in limbo." Twitter explodes. Chrissy and Jim Jones were the top 2 songs in the country within minutes. The video was shared by the Shade Room. Hollywood Unlocked discussed the altercation live. Mama Jones even joined the commotion, sharing a photo of herself and Chrissy from 2012 along with the following caption, "And like that, poof, disappeared." The remarks were shrewd. Jim had 0 rings in 20 years, but he believed that love was time. "I do," Chrissy said to someone who actually did. That man couldn't get Chrissy a date, but he gave us Dipset classics. Fans started removing receipts in the meanwhile. Previous interviews, previous Love and Hip Hop episodes. Chrissy got down on her knees for that 2011 proposal. Every time she waited, was captured on video on the internet. And now, she stopped waiting. Jim withdraws to his trailer. A production worker said that Jim walked out of Chrissy's room without saying anything else. He didn't yell, didn't make any noise, didn't attempt to engage in combat. He simply made his way silently to his trailer, took a seat, and shut the door. He didn't even talk, according to a cosmetic artist who offered him a towel. He simply gazed at the ground. After a while, he gently placed his chains on the vanity counter after removing each one individually. Since the beginning of filming, no one had ever seen Jim without them. He finally broke the silence at 10:48 p.m. by texting Freaky Zeke, his day one buddy. "She did it, genuinely. I believed her to be bluffing." Chrissy's phone was constantly buzzing. In the meantime, cast members, bloggers, and people she hadn't spoken to in years bombarded Chrissy's phone with texts and direct messages. However, one message struck a different chord. It came from her new husband, whose identity, the world, was still unaware of, who merely sent the following message: "I'm proud of you. Let them speak." Chrissy had no desire to make headlines. She knew what was going to happen when she entered that reunion taping with her heart fortified with 2 decades of history and her wedding ring concealed beneath a brand new manicure. She didn't want to make Jim look bad. She had no desire for vengeance. She did, however, have one desire: serenity. And in order to obtain it, she had to let go of the Jim Jones concept. Something she had been scared to do for more than 10 years. The ring that made all the difference, a grandiose proposition, was not what it was. No petals of roses, no helicopters, no diamond embroidered with rap lyrics, only a beach, a letter, handwritten, and a man who wanted to create with Chrissy rather than try to fix her. What is the name of that man? Bellamy Marcus. Yes, the well-known architect who has designed residences for the aristocracy of hip-hop in late 2022. They met at a gala for interior design. Chrissy was there in order to help a buddy. The main speaker was Marcus. By chance, the two ended up sitting next to each other at supper. That evening, she didn't even wear makeup. It was her confidence, not her curves, that he praised. Instead of asking what she did for Jim, he asked what she did for herself. And she was broken by that. She subsequently admitted to a close friend, "I had never been asked that question without it tying back to someone else." They got off to a poor start. Coffee dates, meetings at bookstores, long strolls across Central Park, no paparazzi. Don't brag. Timely. Additionally, Chrissy felt like a real person rather than a placeholder for the first time in years. 11 months later, he made a proposal, not captured on film. Not in the club, not for show. Only her favorite wine, a private meal. And a silent letter folded on her dish that said, "You don't have to prove anything to me. All I want is for you to be publicly loved." Then a ring, not that big, not going viral, but hers. "No more waiting" is engraved in tiny letters on a golden bracelet. She realized then that she would never turn back. Reasons for waiting for the show. This is where things start to get difficult. Chrissy was aware that she couldn't simply abandon the world she had contributed to. She and Jim were a brand, not simply a couple. They were a hip-hop relationship. Goals before the term was coined. Years of love and hip-hop, sponsorship deals, joint appearances, fan pages, and tabloid profiles. She did love him too. She would have taken a bullet for that man at one point. Love, however, is merely hope festering in a corner if nothing is done about it. For years, Chrissy waited for Jim to arrive as a partner as well as a guy. In 2011, she asked HIM to marry her. She bided her time until he offered her a date. When things became chilly, she pleaded with him for counseling. Additionally, Jim consistently abandoned her with the same justification whenever she attempted to go forward. "You are aware of who I am." She also did. What did she not know, though? How much she would have to pay. She wasted time, self-assurance, even a kid. Yes, Chrissy miscarried in 2015, but the public was unaware of it. In the emergency room, Jim did hold her hand, but she subsequently stated he was physically present. But on an emotional level, "I was left alone in that hospital by him." Therefore, she persuaded herself it was too soon when she met Marcus and that she was not able to start over. Perhaps she wasn't worthy of a man who desired her right away. Then, however, she glanced at the calendar. 6 months remained till her 50th birthday, and she promised herself, "I'm still waiting on the same ring that I begged for at 30, so I'm not going to be 50. The unexpected production leak. It turns out that Jim was unaware of Chrissy's wedding before the makers of Real Love. Real Lives were. Yes, according to sources. Chrissy requested a moment toward the end of the reunion to speak freely, uninterrupted, regarding her relationship status in her contract rewrite, which she filed weeks before filming began. She just wanted to reclaim her tale, not have the cameras record Jim's response. However, the producers. It smelled like infectious gold. The run-of show was rearranged. She slipped her declaration into the last 5 minutes, kept Jim in the dark, didn't alert the actors, did not even give the host a briefing. They desired for the occasion to feel genuine. What were they given? Was captured in 4K as pure heartbreak. Indeed, Chrissy was incensed upon realizing how they had set Jim up. She had warned them not to take advantage of his response. But after the video was captured, it belonged to the network. When did the video leak? She was aware that there was no going back. Jim's inner circle expresses itself. According to an urban podcast, one of Jim's closest boys, who wished to remain nameless during the reunion, Jim had allegedly already chosen a ring. He had talked to Mama Jones, who this time was pleasantly encouraging. Additionally, he had concealed the ring in his suitcase with the intention of removing it during their last meeting. The strategy. Final attempt. One final attempt. Here's the twist, though. He was never given the opportunity, because Chrissy dropped her own bomb. Before he could say anything, "I'm married already." Supporters were split. Some claim that Chrissy ought to have forewarned him. Others, let's say she has warned him for 20 years. The tranquility she never imagined experiencing, Chrissy switched off her phone and boarded an upstate train. The day following the reunion, not glam, no entourage. Marcus and her alone. They stayed at a little cabin on the lake, ate food prepared at home. I performed jazz. Without glancing over their shoulders, they laughed. According to a person close to Chrissy, she shed to tears. From relief, once out of guilt, because Chrissy still had to deal with the fact that she had broken a man who had previously loved her passionately, even if he wasn't sure how to express it, even in the face of the public applause and fan appreciation. However, she was also aware of this. I was going to wither if I didn't leave. Jim is planning something in the meanwhile. Rumor has it that Jim isn't finished yet. According to sources, he has been writing a new solo song that some fans feel already sounds like a Chrissy diss track. The heading: I ought to have known. What about the lyrics? Brutal. Lines from a leaked snippet include, she gave me violence. She gave her time, and she took my loyalty and turned it to silence. One thing is certain, whether it's bars, heartache, or both, Jim is in pain. Chrissy, too, doesn't turn around. Jim. Jones vanished from the public eye in the days after Chrissy's wedding announcement. No interviews, not a single Instagram live, no subtweet at all. Jim was the voice of unrepentant emotion and the hothead of Harlem, so fans were accustomed to watching him blow up. However, this time he fell silent, and it made people frightened, because Jim's silence wasn't a sign of peace. Pressure was mounting. I should have known the internet-breaking song Jim, then released a surprise freestyle on SoundCloud with the title just when everyone thought he was going to stay low for good. I ought to have known. The rhythm, fearsome. The words are daggers that are straight. You took a flight into his life and I was too late to draw the line. I gave you time, space, and mine for 20 years. You walked away and I took the blame. You wore white, but I wore shame. The internet went down. Creators of TikTok began creating extreme reactions. Over the song, one fan stitched a video of Chrissy's wedding reveal and wrote the following caption: he lost more than simply a girlfriend. His legacy was lost. What, though, caused everyone to grip their pearls? The outro was, "You are still my forever," was the last thing I spoke to her. Even if you only come to see me in my fantasies. Oh no, oh no. Backstage communication no one was expected to hear. Do you recall the covert camera that Reggie was carrying backstage? As it happens, before Jim left the building that evening, it managed to capture one more moment. He stopped just long enough to speak to Chrissy's best friend, Kendra, who was waiting with her suitcase. While he waited outside the exit door with his hoodie pulled down, his chains off, and his spectacles back on. Tell her that this is not how I ever wanted it to end. Tell her that I've always been afraid she outgrow me. She also did. Then he ventured out into the darkness. The video was never shown. However, Kendra, she gave it away, intentionally. People needed to understand that it wasn't just about ego. She was loved by that man. He simply didn't understand the importance of loving himself first. The promises we didn't hear, what were the fans unaware of? 2 months prior to the reunion taping, Chrissy had already been married. It wasn't captured on camera. Not a press. Only 30 people. A Spanish courtyard outside. A sunset that appeared to have been hand-painted by God. What about Chrissy's vows? They were intimate, lyrical. However, one segment struck a different chord and was inadvertently shared on her close friend's Instagram account. This was it. Thank you for teaching me what love isn't, to the man who noticed me before the rest of the world did. You taught me how to ask for better things. And now, ... I get it. Whoa. A few were angry. Chrissy was deemed insulting. Vows shouldn't be interpreted negatively. That Jim was still in her soul. Others, though, claimed it was poetry masquerading as closure. painfully written chapter that ends with power. Mama Jones discloses her information. Mama Jones intervened just when the internet believed things couldn't get much messier. She shared a video showing herself enjoying a glass of white wine on her kitchen counter. The scene of all the famous drama with the caption, "I'll only say this once. I adore Chrissy. Always had, will always." However, you can't execute such antics on TV and expect people to feel a certain way. I'm happy she found happiness. Don't pretend, though, that my son isn't fighting for her. Did you wait? Yes, you guessed it, darling. He also survived you. In the comments, fans were divided. Some advised her to tell her mother. Others, you. Brought him up. Don't blame the woman, blame the man. One of the best comments said, Chrissy was silent while she waited. Jim let out a series of sobs. Only one of them recovered, but they both lost. Whoa! What will Jim do next? Jim returned to the studio when Chrissy and Marcus were on their honeymoon in Italy. Insiders, however, claim it wasn't for the music. It was for treatment. Yes, rumor has it that Jim has discreetly enrolled in an upstate New York private men's emotional wellness retreat where he will not be distracted by phones or the media. According to people close to him, he isn't attempting to return. Before he returns to the spotlight, he is attempting to fix the man. It's true, and truthfully, growth is that. Because Jim, 10 years ago, would have gone to the strip club, released a diss tape, and dated a random person simply to be in style. Is this Jim endured the agony? Chrissy too. She is at peace. Pictures of Chrissy and Marcus eating at a restaurant by the water appeared. No paparazzi, not glam. She smiled softly, her head resting on his shoulder. And her admirers couldn't help but be pleased for her. Because she ultimately made the decision to choose herself after years of pleading, hoping, and suffering. Not to make headlines for clapbacks, no. Not for the culture. But for the sake of peace. She subsequently admitted to a friend, I didn't leave him to hurt him. To save myself, I left him. The internet responds. Several viral fan tweets include, Chrissy gave Jim every opportunity to appear. He remained silent. She said goodbye. Emotional debt results from love that doesn't change. She made a profit. Jim Jones discovers that effort and loyalty are not the same thing. That man treated his queen like a backup dancer. She was waiting to feel appreciated, not for a wedding. The last scene, let's picture this story's final scenario. Screen that is divided. Jim Jones is shown on the left, seated in a darkened studio, looking at an old picture of Chrissy with tears in his eyes and his headphones off. On the right, Chrissy and Marcus strolling hand in hand down a cobblestone street while the afternoon sun shines on her new ring. She doesn't turn around. She is not required to. Everything she needed to say was already said. That's it, family. The tale of lost love, wasted time, and finding healing was captured on film when it shouldn't have been seen by the public. This decade of love, silence, and lost opportunities unfolding in front of the globe was more than simply reality TV drama. Jim Jones lost more than just Chrissy. He lost the patient version of her, Chrissy, too. She married for peace, not for retribution. It's your chance to go now. Do you believe Chrissy made a mistake by disclosing her marriage on live television? Or had Jim kept her in suspense for too long, sealing his own doom? Tell us in the comments below which team you actually support. Hashtag Team Chrissy or hashtag Team Jim Jones. If you're curious about what happens after Chrissy's new husband confronts Jim directly, here it is. Yes, it will happen next. Click like, subscribe, and enable post notifications. Due to this tale, it's not finished yet. We've cameras in inappropriate places.